Brand's radio station.
He's the rookie and the vet. He's the future and the presence. He is Anthony Edwards, and we got to protect him at all costs.
Live from the Anajar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios.
The man your man could smell.
Theo Dorsey is theoretically speaking.
But are you a different animal and the same beast?
What does that mean, Kobe Bryant?
Streaming live on YouTube. Here's Theo Dorsey.
Boy, I got a little nervous right there, man. I went to hit the open, and it wasn't going. Oh, I got sticky fingers, or is that just a mishap on my behalf? What happened there?
I think you got grease on your fingers. What did you eat for lunch?
I had a nice salad.
Oh,
I had a nice
maybe not.
salad, which is why I know it's going to be a beautiful day. When you make good choices during lunch, it fuels the rest of your day. Food fuels the soul. It fuels your energy. And I've got boundless energy after watching, the superstar himself, the future face of the league, Anthony Edwards, and those Minnesota Timberwolves late last night. See, Kat, I told you I had to do a compromise with the wife. I did miss the Knicks-Pacers game, and maybe thank God that I did, because I hate when referee decisions are what are the highlight of the end of the game. They kind of stole away what could have been a moment for the Pacers. 2 bad calls down the stretch.
Oh.
That 2-minute report from the league, they're going to hate that, Pacers fans, today.
It was disgusting, especially the kickball.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. It wasn't even close.
And that's why I say, again, like, if we're going to make all of these different things reviewable in the NBA, like, there has to be a common sense review button somewhere. When we know, like, instantly right after that was a terrible call, it's going to change the dynamics of this game. It's happening under a minute left in a tied game in the playoffs, and you can't review that. Something needs to change in the rule books. But we're not here today on Theoretically Speaking to talk rule books or officiating. I'm tired of it. I'm sick of it. I would rather talk about the positives of sports. And one of the most glaring positives, one of the biggest optimistic points we have in all of sports right now are the Minnesota Timberwolves and Anthony Edwards. 1 week ago today on Theoretically Speaking, by the way, C-Cat, today, episode 22, Deuce, Pocket Rocket, Emmitt Smith. Shout out to the Migos. Also, I guess it could be the Jimmy Butler episode, but I don't know what his future is in Miami right now, so I'll just stick to Emmitt Smith. I'll give the love to the Cowboys Hall of Famer. This is a week ago today. I sat in the same spot here on Theoretically Speaking, and I told you all, Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves are the greatest show in sports, not just the NBA, and they were going to beat the Denver Nuggets in the second round series. Now I sit before you today following a Game 2 win, 106-80 in Denver, the Minnesota Timberwolves going up 2-0. Anthony Edwards yapping, talking his mess, and all of the national media, anybody with a mic in a show or even a Twitter account, is now getting aboard the ant wagon or the fan bus. But I'd like y'all to kind of recalibrate your minds, because I don't think we can call this thing a bandwagon or a fan bus when we have a guy like Anthony Edwards, as electric as he is, as transcendent as he is as a talent, and how captivating he can be. This is no fan bus you're jumping on. It's not a bandwagon. It's not even a train. When you jump on with the one and only Anthony Edwards, you are taking part in Come on. It's a lot of room. It's a lot of room for you here on the Fantastic Voyage. That's what it's like watching Anthony Edwards. 27 points in that win. He didn't even need to score because the Timberwolves' suffocating defense made it that much easier. They hold the Denver Nuggets, the reigning champs, to 80 points on their own home court. And all of this goes back to that man, Anthony Edwards, the guy that is the face of the league, or at least soon to be the face of the league, the guy that is the talk of the town, and most importantly, he is the one in sports we need to be most concerned about protecting at all costs. Anthony Edwards needs to be protected at all costs. You need to pull out your bubble wrap, get this guy this hedge of protection, and make sure that we have Anthony Edwards for the entirety of these playoffs. Because I do believe if the Minnesota Timberwolves stay healthy. And again, last night they beat the Denver Nuggets and held them to 80 points with Rudy Gobert, the guy who's in line, he's the heavy favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year, out because his son was born. And congratulations to him and the family. I'm glad that he actually did sit out a playoff game to go watch the birth of his son. Don't listen to what Gilbert Arenas is telling you. We'll get to that guy later. But Gobert sits out. He's soon to be a Defensive Player of the Year. His fourth one it will be when he brings that into that hardware into the trophy case. And the Minnesota Timberwolves still march on the victory, and it all goes back to Anthony Edwards, his leadership, the confidence that he has that's so infectious, and of course the electric play that is hard to turn away from. I did have to watch the Met Gala. I did pick up some things from the Met Gala. It was still an enticing experience with my wife. Right, I missed Pacers Knicks, but I was able to watch Timberwolves Nuggets, and it made it worth the while. C-Cat, did you watch any of the Met Gala, or were you locked in on NBA?
You know, you're saying it as you're proud. Like, you got the worst of two games, and like, what happens at the Met Gala?
People dressed up in fancy outfits. I saw Dwayne Wade jump out there in a purple suit. Apparently, he says he's like a pretty butterfly, and then Gabrielle Union says she's going to pluck him, which I don't know if that's some kind of sexual innuendo between those two or not, because they are very public about how freaky they are, and I don't know how, PG that is. But, I mean, it happened. I witnessed that part of it.
But what do you get out of watching it live rather than just scrolling an article the next day about what everyone wore? What happens at the Met Gala apart from the red carpet?
I think they were, while people walked out in the Met Gala, they judged their outfits and whatnot, and they talked about it. I didn't understand many of what they were saying. I didn't know who these designers were that were dressing people. But there was Ben Simmons there. There were faces that I recognized. I think Sydney Sweeney and
Theo. It's just you and me here, bud. You can say what you feel about this. I know your wife's listening and watching right now, but was it a good watch?
Ashley, baby, I love you, but it was miserable. Actually, for it's hard watching those kind of things too, because I also am not invested in it. But you know what? Since she sat through that with me, or I sat through that Met Gala with her, she sat through Timberwolves Nuggets at least for the first couple of quarters before she fell asleep. And that's because the Timberwolves put the Nuggets to sleep in the middle of that game. Anthony Edwards and what he's doing with these Minnesota Timberwolves is a show that is unmatched by any other. They should be the favorites to win the NBA title. In my book, I already said they'd get past the Nuggets. I do think Anthony Edwards and that squad can be both the future but also the present and be able to make that kind of mark on this postseason. And it's specifically because of who he is to this team. A lot of people would have egos, right? If they're in a position of like a Karl Anthony Towns, who was the number 1 overall pick for the Timberwolves back in 2015, who you would think at 28 years old, this is his team, this is his franchise. Who is this young buck, this 22-year-old cat who obviously is dominant? But, I mean, I also got some game about me. This is how you know how great Anthony Edwards is. Take a listen to this post-game. After the Timberwolves steal yet another game at the Mile High, Anthony Edwards sitting next to Karl Anthony Towns. One should be, the young gun, and the other one should be the vet. And listen to this question a reporter directed right at Cat and how Anthony Edwards intercepts it like the big homie and takes over. This is true leadership right here.
Cat, years and years ago when you came into this league as the number 1 pick, you were drafted not only for your offensive talent but for your defense and the promise that everyone thought you had. Does it feel good to be getting back to that and showing your capabilities again and not, just being viewed as the stat stuffer?
And taps him on the leg right here. Says, "I got this.
I got this." That you were.
He was never viewed as a stat stuffer or just a. No. I know that. I'm just saying he was never viewed as that. Especially when I got here, I always thought he was a great defensive player. He just had to put his mind to it. And when Finchie got here, man, Finchie put emphasis on, and Cat, if we want to go somewhere, we got to defend. And like he said, that's the head of the snake. Man. And hearing that from him, it pushed Cat, man. And I tell Cat, we need you to defend. Corliss tell Cat, we need you to defend the whole team. And, ever since he been back this whole year, man, since he been at the 4, he been defending his ass off. So he's been playing great, and we hope he continues to do it.
Cat sat silent and watched Anthony Edwards take over in that moment, similar to how he is. And, again, this is not a criticism of Karl Anthony Towns. This is maturity, right? Anthony Edwards can't be the guy that he is for the Timberwolves today if other guys aren't able to sit back and accept their role and to have one unified vision. I have to credit Karl Anthony Towns for taking a back seat to this guy who's getting compared to guys like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and must I say here, Dwayne Wade, as a two-way guard who gives just as much effort on the offensive end as he does on the defensive end. And I mean, him, Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I would never want to dribble the ball anywhere in the vicinity of those guys the way they were hounding the Denver Nuggets. But you hear that kind of message from Anthony Edwards, and you see how the veterans even in the locker room take after him, and you should understand just how big of a moment this is in Minneapolis. Anthony Edwards must be wrapped in the bubble wrap and protected at all costs. We can't – I mean, there was one point in the third quarter where he got his arm tangled up in Nikola Jokic, and it looked like he had a bit of a stinger, and I'm on the couch, like, fretting. I am worried because though the Timberwolves have like a 20-point lead, a 30-point lead at this point, I'm like, if we have to go on this postseason without Anthony Edwards, I don't know if I can watch anymore. I can't stomach that, C-Cat.
Yeah, it's like when the quarterback of your favorite team goes down and everyone holds their breath and they're thinking, please, no. That's how you were with Anthony Edwards last night.
I think I might have shed a thug tear. One of them. I might have shed a tear if we would have lost Anthony Edwards last night, especially in that blowout win. But, I mean, the dude was getting MVP chants on the road against the defending champs, right? Anthony Edwards dropped Reggie Jackson with a crossover, and Reggie Jackson wasn't even in front of him. He was on the side of him. He got crossed over by Anthony Edwards' aura. That's how amazing this dude is. When I tell you Anthony Edwards is the future and the present, I hate to steal a bar from Drake right now. It's a bad time to be stealing any Drizzy bars, but he's the rookie and the vet. You hear it in answers like what he had right there, intercepting one from Karl Anthony Towns and taking over, being a leader, being almost like a mentor to Cat. Also, you hear it in the answers of the actual vets. The Minnesota Timberwolves have 36-year-old guard Mike Conley, which sounds crazy to say right now, but yes, I remember Conley in his Ohio State days playing with Greg Oden. Now he's 36-year-old wily vet Mike Conley. He was on the Pat McAfee show earlier today, and listen to what he says, because everybody's talking about how Anthony Edwards is going to be his league soon. Listen to what Mike Conley says Anthony Edwards' internal mindset is right now.
No, he's not waiting, and that's what's different about him is, you expect guys like that to be like, oh, yeah, I'll be up next, and, I'll take my, a couple of years of learning and bumps and bruises. Like, he wants it right now. He wants to be the best. He won't tell you, but he believes he's the best, in the world. He's very humble at the same time. He gives respect to those in front of him and the guys he looks up to, which makes him, that's that much more special young talent.
He does it the right way, and that's why we have to protect him at all costs. It's also why Jamal Murray, what you did last night, in a loss, and I get it. It was frustrating. He was getting hounded, absolutely hounded by the defenders, the length that the Minnesota Timberwolves have on the perimeter. But Jamal Murray in the second quarter throwing a heat pack out on the floor that almost was stumbled on by Karl Anthony Towns. Not only was that a crap move by Jamal Murray, not only was that like a cornball move by you throwing something out on the court, it also could have got somebody injured. And I know the talk around the town right now is, Jamal Murray needs to be suspended. I say for sure, he needs to be punished. Jamal Murray needs to be punished by the NBA, by the league office for that act. It is egregious, it is terrible, and it could have got somebody hurt. But I almost wonder if a suspension isn't really punishment. Maybe you make his ass get back out there for Game 3 in Minnesota, and I'm looking at the stat sheet. He's 9 for 32 in this series so far. He's 9 for 32 from the floor. He has 27 total points to his name, and he looked absolutely miserable. I think that Jamal Murray might have threw that heat pack on the floor so he could get suspended. I think he wants no more smoke from the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think you're scared, Jamal Murray, and I think that's and again, I can't get inside of a dude's head, but you can read the body language and you can see what he did. An idiotic move by Jamal Murray, first and foremost. But also, maybe that's his way out. Oh, in frustration, I threw the heat pad out. I had to sit out Game 3. Now we're down 3-0, and in Game 4 we get swept, and I can just say I got to get better control of my emotions. No, you need to get a better handle on the basketball and learn how to shoot over some length. because them dudes got him in prison. I mean, did you hear Chris Canty on Unsportsmanlike this morning, C-Cat?
I did.
Jamal Murray was getting whooped so bad last night. Not only did he throw stuff out on the court, he also turned Chris Canty, the 6'8" former defensive lineman of the New York Giants, now the co-host on Unsportsmanlike, which you hear here from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., he turned Chris Canty into an American Idol performer.
I mean, this dude is special. I mean, he had Jamal Murray in jail last night. I'm talking Akon locked up, won't let him out. No, he won't let him out. Jamal Murray is 1 of 10.
Yo, you can sing.
1 of
Did you
10
hear that
in
note?
the
No,
first half
stop.
of the field.
You can sing.
Like seriously, 1 of 10 for the first half in the field.
Stop blowing by this. You can sing.
That's after game 1 where he was 0 in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
You
what
can cut
Anthony Edwards is.
Chris Canty got the pipes. And hold up, relax, but the vocal pipes. My brother can sing.
He sure can.
Dude, I mean, that's what Anthony Edwards brings out of you. The dude is so infectious, so talented. He brings the best out of his teammates, like Karl Anthony Towns. He also brings the best out of sports broadcasters like Chris Canty. I didn't know the brother could sing. Shout out to Canty. Shout out to Unsportsmanlike. We got to protect a guy like Anthony Edwards at all costs. But who do you think in sports should we be protecting at all costs? To me, it's Anthony Edwards. Clearly, he's the future, but he's also right now. For you, who is that? Hit us up on the Baptist Health Hotline, 888-760-3776, 888-760-3776. Baptist Health Orthopedic Care. Are you experiencing foot and ankle pain and need to see an expert in the field? Baptist Health Orthopedic Care has a team of foot and ankle orthopedic surgeons and specialists who are regarded as leaders in their specialty. Visit baptisthealth.net/ortho to learn more today. Baptist Health Orthopedic Care combines its resources of experienced physicians and leading-edge treatments and technology to provide advanced orthopedic, foot and ankle, joint replacement, spine, and sports medicine care. Visit baptisthealth.net/ortho for more information today. Baptist Health Orthopedic Care has offices conveniently located in Palm Beach County through the Florida Keys. Learn more by visiting baptisthealth.net/ortho. Hit us up on the Baptist Health Hotline, 888-760-3776. Who in sports should we be protecting at all costs? Who in sports needs the bubble wrap? To me, it's clearly Anthony Edwards. I'm curious as to who you would have for this, C-Cat. And we're going to have Uncle Steve on soon to do the get around and talk some Dallas Cowboys. We're going to talk some TGL. But C-Cat, who would you protect at all costs in sports right now?
I would have to go with the integrity of the game of basketball. Personify that, because in the past 15 years, we've gone through quite a journey with the rise of the three-point ball that Steph Curry encouraged and dominated and revolutionized. And then we saw James Harden come through and kind of change the game in a much more negative way, where drawing the foul behind the three-point arc was the entirety of his game. And I see more in that every single time I watch the game of basketball. And I'm happy to see a guy you've been preaching about all show today so far, Anthony Edwards, doesn't really shoot the three-point ball that much.
He don't hunt fouls around the arc either with it. Like
exactly.
Man, you're a wise man. And also, they did try to cut back on this rule. They tried to do some things to weave out the Trae Young style stuff where you're foul hunting on the perimeter. Mm-hmm. Some of it's worked. They've litigated some of it out of the league. But, yeah, you're still going to see some of that. Again, we're taking your calls. That's a good call, by the way. The integrity of basketball, we need to keep that thing high, especially with Anthony Edwards being the now face of the league. If we're going to be on the fantastic voyage, we need to make that thing a clean and safe one for my guy. Uncle Steve going to be on the other side. We're going to get Uncle Steve in here. We got to ask him about, number one, some TGL, some big news out of that, plus more Dallas Cowboys news. They can't stop running their mouth about Dak Prescott. That's C-Cat. I'm Theo Dorsey. It's episode 22 of Theoretically Speaking on ESPN 106.3.
Live from the Anajar in the